Good evening, everyone. Welcome to District 63's Mentor Mondays. My name is Stephen Shaner. I'm honored to be your host, Toastmaster and Zoom Master for the evening, and I get the added benefit of being the presenter this evening. Tonight, we're going to learn a little bit about part of the Moments of Truth program. Moments of Truth, as defined by Toastmasters, is when anybody comes in contact with any aspect of the Toastmasters program. This can be an individual, say somebody sees your Toastmasters pin or your badge and asks you questions. That's a moment of truth. It could be your club's website. That could be a moment of truth, good or bad. It could be their first time at a club meeting, whether in person or on Zoom. These are all moments of truth because people form their first impressions of your club, your organization, and what Toastmasters has to offer. The Moments of Truth program is an evaluation tool that allows us to take a look at what our club is doing and find areas where we can make small improvements to make sure that our clubs are quality clubs. When we have guests come in the door, that's what they need to see is quality in action. I am going to share my screen here. You see that okay?
Yes.
So what we can do is you can download from the Toastmasters International website the Moments of Truth program. It comes with a PowerPoint presentation. It comes with a handout, which I think is one of the most important tools we have to be able to do this. And what we want to do is give this Moments of Truth worksheet to every single one of our members. And as you see the Moments of Truth, there are 6 sections. There's first impressions. There's membership orientation, fellowship variety and communication, program planning, meeting organization, membership strength, achievement recognition, and a place for some comments to add, for people can add as well. And as they fill this out, they can rate it from 1 to 5, where 1, we never meet this standard, 2, we rarely meet this standard, 3, we sometimes meet this standard, 4, we usually meet this standard, or 5, we always meet this standard. I have been amazed as many times I've done this where I thought the club I was in was doing well on a particular point, and everybody else in the club rated it low. And there's been other times when I thought we were low and everybody else rated it high. So if you're a club officer, club president, do not assume that you know what's going on in your club and how your people feel. This is a great way to find out what's going on in your club. And again, as I said, look for ways that you can improve and make your club quality all the way around. Tonight we'll focus on this first group, first impressions. And as it says, first impressions are important to club success because guests' positive experiences and observations determine whether they will return and become members. I remember working with a club when I first moved up to the Duluth, Minnesota area. There was a club with 27 members, and then there was a club with 6. I decided I'd go ahead and join the club with 6. And I figured I'd help them out a little bit. So that made 7 when I joined. If we had 4 people at a club meeting, we were doing pretty good that week. And we did meet weekly. One day, we had 3 guests. As the Toastmaster introduced the speaker for the day, he got up and proceeded to unpack his laptop, unpack his projector, and he spent about 15 minutes trying to get his laptop and his projector to work. And he finally said, well, we'll just skip it and we'll do this speech another day. And then he proceeded to do table topics, even though I was the table topics master for that day. Do you think we ever saw those 3 guests again? No, unfortunately, we did not. It was not a quality meeting by any way, shape, or form. Later, we were able to build that club up to 50 members, and we started doing things and doing things in a quality way, and that's what really helped us to make our membership grow. So first impressions are so key. So let's look at this first point. Guests greeted warmly and introduced to officers and members. This is okay. One of the clubs, in fact, the first club I ever joined, they actually assigned a greeter role every week. And that person's responsibility was to greet guests at the door, give them their guest packet, sit with them, answer questions during the meeting, and make sure they knew what was going on. And of course, during the meeting, We always invite the guests to address the club. And we'll talk about that here in a minute, and to join. Let's see, guest book and name tags provided. There's lots of different ways you can do this. Those of us that are in leadership in Toastmasters, of course, have our name tags that we can wear. I've seen some clubs put up, you know, when you go into a restaurant, you see the little table tent, the little plastic placards that they can put specials in. You have purchased some of those, and they put everybody's name, so it's sitting at the table in front of them. They also, I've seen one club, they had a tall one that had the roll. So on the front, that they sat on the table in front of them, it would say Table Topics Master. On the back, facing them, was their responsibilities for the meeting. So every one of the roles in the club had that information. So you could look around a room, you could see who the speakers were, you could see who the evaluators were, you could see who the Toastmaster was, and everybody could see that. And when you're Table Topics Master, it makes it easier to pick somebody for Table Topics that doesn't have a role as well. So think about doing that. You can simply take a piece of paper and print that on and fold it in half and make a tent out of it if you want to do it simple. The plastic holders were really nice and made for a very professional room and quality at that. Guest book. Most of the clubs I've been in have had a guest book. When the guests come in, have them sign the guest book, give us at least an email, maybe a phone number. And that comes in handy because we can stay in contact with those people. And sometimes if we have a special event, say an open house or an anniversary party for the club, we have a way to contact those people that have come in once upon a time. And one thing I've learned in Toastmasters is no is never permanent. Just because a person says no today doesn't mean they're going to say no tomorrow or next year or whenever. I first learned about Toastmasters in 1987. I actually did a magic show for International in California. I was intrigued by the organization, but I didn't find a club that was convenient to me until 2000. So no is never permanent. People's lives change. They get different jobs. All of a sudden they find themselves in a situation where they're doing more presentations and they need help. So it's always good to have a list of guests so that you can reach out to them. Professionally arranged meeting room. I've seen some meeting rooms arranged in a lot of different ways. Main thing is make sure it's professionally arranged so everybody in the audience can see the speakers, so the speaker can see all of the audience. I personally like U-shaped tables so that everybody's facing each other. However, if you've got classroom style where you have people in the front row, second row, third row, and some people have their backs to people, that's okay too, that can work. Just make sure the room is arranged in a professional way and that it looks nice when people walk in. Convenient meeting location. When I first moved up to Duluth, I lived in Superior, Wisconsin, which was outside of our district. The district that I was involved in was Minnesota, North Central Ontario, but I lived in Wisconsin. After I'd been there a few months, I went on the Toastmasters International website just to see if there was a club in Superior, and there was. And it met at the Technical College, which was exactly 1 block from my house. That is convenient. They met on Monday nights, 7 o'clock. Next time I had a Monday free, I walked down, check them out. Walked into the college, went up to the information. I said, where's Toastmasters meeting? Oh, they're meeting on Wednesdays now. So I went and looked at the website again, and it still said Monday. A couple weeks later, I had a Wednesday free. I went over to check them out. Walked in. Where's the Toastmasters Club? They're meeting on Tuesdays now. It was about a year later, the president of that club actually contacted me because I was president of the club in Duluth, and they were disbanding the club. But they had a lectern and a bunch of material, and they said, would you like to have it for your club? I said, sure. When is your last meeting? I'll swing by and pick it up. And he said, it's next Tuesday. Okay, so I went over on Tuesday night to pick up the stuff. Oh, that meeting was last night. So I never did meet this club, and at that point I was not too surprised that they were disbanding, and I don't think anybody could find this club. They were moving around so much. So convenient location, and certainly keeping your website up to date. We talked about that being a moment of truth. Keep it up to date. And if you're using social media, the only thing your social media should do is point to your club website. Your club website should be your source of truth for your club. Point people there. If you're doing Facebook, point them to your website. If you're doing anything else, point them to your website. Make sure that that information is up to date, always. Next, guests are invited to address the club. At the beginning of the meeting, invite them. Stand up, tell us about yourself. Why are you here? We certainly need to learn that much. Why are they there, and how can we help them meet those goals? But give them a couple of minutes. And then finally, guests are invited to join. At the end of the meeting, just ask them. Just say the words. It's been great having you. Please consider joining us. We would love to hear your stories. We would love to learn from you. We would love to utilize your leadership skills. Invite them to join. I was visiting a club as an area director one time, and as I sat down preparing for the meeting, I was talking to the lady next to me, and I asked her, how long have you been a member? She said, oh, I'm not a member. I said, well, how long have you been coming? She's about 3 months. I said, why haven't you joined? Nobody asked me. So I immediately reached out an application. I said, fill this out. We're going to get you signed up today. It's just that simple. Invite them to join. They may say no, but no is never permanent. So these 6 points, can you see where these first impressions are certainly a moment of truth? As people come into our clubs, we certainly want to greet them warmly, introduce them to the members, the officers, the guest book and name tags. You know, sometimes the VP of membership might be busy, but they can certainly delegate that task to make sure somebody at the club is greeting people as they come in. Make sure your meeting location is convenient, a guest invited to address the club, et cetera, et cetera. Now, as your people fill out these numbers, how do you determine what you're going to do? There's 36 total points in the Moments of Truth program. You do not want to work on all 36 points. Okay, but here's what I have done in the past, and this is an old one that I did for a club years ago. This is Xena City Toastmasters. So at the time we had 11 members, and each member, this is what they rated each of the points. Okay, guests greeted warmly. Okay, there's all 4 or 5, there's a 3. It averages 4.55. So I did this for all of the 11 people, and I got the points. Anything that was in the 4s got a green. Anything that was in the 3s got a yellow. Anything that was 2 or below got a red. We then took this back to the club. The first thing we looked at was this red one. And you can see there's some blanks. Some people didn't answer all of the things, but progress charts displayed and maintained. For this particular club, we didn't do that. And we determined that we really didn't want to. It didn't add any value to the club. I've seen other clubs, they have big giant progress charts with everybody's name. At the time it was Comp Communication Manual and advanced where they were on each of those, and they did it very successfully, and the members appreciated it. But again, what do the members want? So what we did then is we went back and we started looking at these yellow ones. Learning needs assessed. Okay, we could use some improvement there. Speaking roles assigned. There was, at the time, the person that was in charge of scheduling was assigning speakers. And a lot of the members didn't like that. Okay, so work at your own pace. I'll tell you when I want to speak. So there was quite a bit of discussion on that one, and it was at that time it was decided that we would leave that one alone. Regularly scheduled social events was low. We did a couple a year, and everybody was fine pretty much with that. Inter-club events encouraged, club newsletter, website. Club has 21 members. Members are retained. Promotion of the club in the community and within its organization. That was one we decided to take on. Okay, and we improved that. The next time we did Moments of Truth, those numbers were up in the green. Club programs varied and exciting was another one that they decided to take on and build that one up. And we took a little bit closer look at the Distinguished Club program. So we picked 3 of them to work on, and that's what I would recommend anytime you're doing the Moments of Truth. Don't try and tackle all 36 of these things. Pick 2 or 3 and bring those up, and then do the Moments of Truth 6 months later and see where you're at, and then pick 2 or 3 more to work on. And do this gradually, and after a period of time, you should see all 36 of these points up into the green. And then quality clubs are the ones that get new members. Quality clubs are the ones that retain their members. And these 36 points are a good guideline on how well you're doing as a quality club. So this is Moments of Truth, very high level. Download the program. There's a lot of great information in there. And I love this program. Actually, I would like to see this be part of the Distinguished Club program, where we are forced to do this to be a distinguished club at least once a year, if not twice a year. I don't know if that'll ever happen. Somebody at headquarters just went, ding, I got an idea. But we'll see what happens there. So let's see if anyone has any questions on this. Again, don't assume you know where you're at on any of these. If you're a club officer, your club president, don't assume. Get the feedback from your club members and then take the information back to the club. We did this at Cookeville, and I took the information back to the club this past Tuesday night, and we've got 3 items that we're going to work on. And by the way, Marty, one of them is a mentorship program. So we'll be counting on you to bring that up to speed.
I do have a question for you, Stephen. First of all, would you mind sharing that spreadsheet so that we can put it out and make it available maybe for the district and they can take it and run with it?
Love to.
Okay, terrific. Now, I had a question for you. We concentrated just on that first section tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that first section. In the book that we looked at, I'm not sure how much detail it goes into about each of those, but I can see where you would have one opinion of how we were doing on something, and I might have another totally different opinion. For instance, it says the room is professionally organized. Well, what does professionally mean? There's a couple of those. Convenient. Is the room convenient, or the meeting place convenient? Well, a block from you is convenient, but perhaps if I had to go and plot, park 10 miles away and walk there, that might not be convenient. So is there anything beyond just that one sentence that says, here's what that means, here's what professional looks like?
I don't think there is, but I think that's up to your club to decide. Hey, we're having to pay to park here. This is, we need to find another place, someplace more convenient. Okay. So we used to have, one of the clubs I went to, the Sergeant Arms always brought arranged flowers and put them on the tables around. It looked very nice. Now, I'm not a flower person, so I had no feelings one way or another on that. Did it add? Yeah, a lot of people like flowers, but it's what the club decides, and that's the thing. Is, yeah, we're club officers, okay, but get back to your members and talk to them and ask them, what can we do or not do to make this meeting room more professional looking? Okay, and you're going to hear the extremes going both ways. Okay, everybody needs to wear a coat and tie and a dress, and but as a club, you decide this is what it means to us. A professionally organized room, this is what it means to us.
So each club can sort of set some standards on their own.
As you know, every club has its own personality.
Okay.
And, so I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, you have to do this and you have to put flowers out and all your chairs need to be aligned exactly 36 inches apart, actually 6 feet apart now. So that's not why we're here as leaders. We're here to help the clubs grow and be quality, and they get to decide that.
So do you think it would be of benefit if we had the club go through moments of truth first and rate it, and then we went through and talked about each of those and said, what does that mean to our club? What are we talking about? So-and-so you rated it as a 1. What do you not find professional, or what do you not find convenient?
And you know what? I always do it so that I don't know who rated it as 1.
Okay.
Okay, so now some clubs do. You put your name on it, and up at the top where I had number 1 through 11, they would have the people's name. But even though I keep it confidential, the discussions are amazing, because as soon as we start looking at, okay, here's why we're low, people will speak up. They'll say, yeah, we need to do this instead, simply. And the discussions really will be amazing. Really get your club members talking about what is a quality club. Oh. You'll get some very good feedback from your members, amazing feedback from your members.
Let me ask you that. Could you bring up that sheet again that had the list on it? The one where you were speaking from at the very beginning when we were talking about each of the categories.
Sure. Maybe. There we go.
Okay. Now, considering our current environment that we find ourselves in, a lot of us are meeting online. Right. Could you take a couple of those and convert that? What would that look like online? For instance, guests are greeted warmly and introduced to officers and members. What does that look like online, do you think?
Online, at Cookeville, we basically just at the beginning of the meeting, if we have a guest, we invite them to say a few words. Introduce yourself, and we kind of introduce ourselves back. And it's a little more difficult. However, if they're on early, we do have a little bit of communication visit time before the meeting officially starts, and we have a chance to meet with them, at that point as well. the other day we had a guest, and it was our club speech contest, and we didn't have any other speakers, and we didn't we had an evaluation contest too. But afterwards, I asked for comments from everybody on my speech, and I even asked for comments from the guest. And at the end of the meeting, she made the comment, "I am so happy that you included me and asked for my opinion." She's now a member. Okay, so that says it all right there. So get the guests involved from the very beginning. Make sure they are allowed to say something. And we need to know that. Why are they there? How did you hear about us?
That's good. Okay, so how about guest book and name tags? Now, obviously, name tags, we all have our name on the bottom of the screen.
Right. Yeah. So Zoom takes care of that.
Yes, that takes care of that. So how do you suggest they handle the guest book?
We are, do we have a guest book, a physical one, Marty?
Yes, we have a physical guest book.
Okay. I've only been in person at the club once. So I'm still asking a lot of questions. And they're, hey, do we do this? Do we have this? But what we do have.
I've seen several of the clubs use the chat feature where the VPM, I guess, would maybe private chat whoever the guests are to say, can I have your name and contact information? Yeah.
And our secretary, Wally Karif, he gets their contact information online. He just asks for it. And we're starting to use within the Club Toast Host website, the guest feature for emails. So we've now got all of our guests' emails in the guest part. So if we want to send email to all of the guests, we can do that. So we're utilizing that part of the website now.
That's good. I like that. Yeah. Okay, so for professionally arranged meeting room, of course, all of our rooms look like the Brady Bunch boxes now, but might that include muting all the participants or maybe backgrounds that aren't distracting? What else could that include?
It can, it would include probably having a Zoom master do nothing but the Zoom stuff for each of your meetings, so they can see who's muted, and make sure people are muted when they're not supposed to be talking. Every now and then, those distractions jump in, the dog barks, the kid comes in, and just to keep those to a minimum. As far as, they got the virtual backgrounds, I don't like them much. The only time I use them is in the timer roll. I finally went out and bought me a green screen. That's what you see behind me now, and it looks better. I'm using that more for my professional business, but it's also good for this setting as well. But that's $50. I bought a Zoom Lite that I don't have yet, but that'll sit up behind my laptop and give me better lighting. That's another, I think that was another $30, but we don't expect all our members to go out and do that. So just have them do the best they can. Make sure there's a blank wall or, something pleasant behind them so it's not a bunch of clutter. But again, are you going to force that? It's up to the club.
Yeah, well, it's just something to think about when they're doing this kind of a worksheet in an online environment. It's going to be different than it is when they're meeting in a physical place.
Right.
For instance, convenient meeting location. Well, you could get more convenient than going to wherever you have your computer at and logging on, bedroom, wherever it is.
That's right.
But might that be convenience in locating your meeting? For instance, how do I find out what the meeting link is? How do I get in touch with someone, or how do I find the Zoom link?
Yep.
Would that be what that would be in an online environment?
That should be on your website. And again, point people to your website. They should be able to go to your website and see when you're meeting, and the Zoom link should be there and that type of stuff. It should be front and center, prominent. Join us. Somebody in the Cookeville Club actually made the comment they didn't know we were active. But all that information was on our website. So now I've got a banner popping up that says, our next meeting is such and such a day at this time. So it really makes it, show that we're active.
So do you think, what about if you have a password to protect, or do you have a visitor room that they would enter first before you allow them in? How do you control that piece of it? Because I know there've been some Zoom bombing.
There's been some Zoom bombing. The Zoom is set up with what they call a waiting area. And we have that set up for Cookeville. So as I see people come in, we're using my personal account for Cookeville, and as I see people come in, if I'm host, I can admit them, just like I did tonight when the two of you came on board, I admitted you. That's the safest way to do it. Now, if you got guests coming in, you may not know who they are, so we're going to let them in, but we're ready to bounce them back out again if they're not really a guest and they're a problem. So that's where having somebody be just the Zoom master for your meetings makes sense, so they can monitor what's going on.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, of course, guests invited to address the club and then guests invited to join are both fairly easy, even online. So those wouldn't change much. But in the online environment, it will be a little bit different than what we would look for if we were doing this in a real environment, in a physical environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's very helpful.
Good. Any other questions? You hit your limit for the year, by the way.
You did ask for questions. Monty, do you have any questions?
No, I think that spreadsheet would be very helpful if that was shareable.
Sure. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. I can pop that over to you.
Right. I mean, seeing the rating there really explains it.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I thought these questions could have been yes or no rather than having a high or low rating, but that definitely makes it where you can see the high or low ranking right there.
And it's fun. Like I said, when you take these numbers back to the club, even last Tuesday when I gave these numbers to the club, the discussion was amazing. And there were some surprises. People were like, what? So, for example, and Marty, you'll be surprised by this. The one club newsletter website published and updated regularly. That wasn't the one. Member achievements formally recognized with ceremony. We really don't do that, but one of these that was related to that was rated very low. And we were surprised because Wally does such a great job sending out, a newsletter pretty much within a day after every one of our meetings and let people know what's going on. But for some reason in that particular area, we got rated low. So we had a great discussion about that. Yeah. So, but you will, when you take the numbers back and the club members see it, there will be some surprises, but there will be some great discussions and great ideas will come forth from this. And again, only pick 1, 2, or 3 items to work on at a time. So that way you can make small improvements in those areas, do the moments of truth again, and pick a couple more areas to work on to improve. Any other questions? Later on one of these Mondays, I'll be going through the other sections of Moments of Truth. For next week, we have our very own Program Quality Director, Distinguished Toastmaster MOT-Foster, will be talking to us about mentorship. I'm looking forward to that presentation and look forward to seeing all of you there. Go forth and do great things.